right? So what about number 3? If each of the 3 red files is immediately followed by a green file, which one of the following must be a yellow file? So let's think about the first thing they gave us. They're telling us that each of the, we'll just think about it here, okay? Each of the red files is immediately followed by a green file. So there is 3 red files and there are 3 green files. So if every red file is going to be immediately followed by a green file, then it's going to have to go like this, right? We're going to have to go red, and then green, and then red, and then green, and then red, and then green. So now, look, this doesn't mean that I can't slide an H in here somewhere, okay, in between. So let me just say that this will be a block. Let's just do this very neatly. So this will be a block, okay, and then here we don't know. So we just know that that's going to come somewhere before, and then here we just know that this is going to come somewhere before, right? And then these will be blocks though. Okay, because they're saying for every red file we have to have a green file immediately afterward, but that doesn't mean they all have to be like right next to each other. Okay, so really what we're saying is this. And now the question is, what file is going to have to be yellow? Well, we have 2 yellow files remaining, remember. So, we could throw those, theoretically, if we don't have any other rules about it, we could throw those yellow files anywhere in between these blocks. It could go in here, it could go in here, but the thing is that the other thing we know is that a red file is not allowed to be first. So this red file over here, this first red file, right, can't be the first file overall. So there's going to have to be a yellow file before it because we've used up all the green ones and we can't have a red file first. So we know for sure that there's going to be one yellow file that comes before any of these red-green blocks. And so when they ask us which one has to be a yellow file, well, we know the first one does because green is not going to be able to be first because it's all the greens are going to come after a red. And red can't be first because of the rule number 5. So the yellow is the only color of file that is allowed to go first under these conditions. Okay, so the answer here for number 3 is going to be A. Let's move to number 4. Let me take this off the board. Okay, so what about number 4? The largest possible number of files that can separate X from V is. So again, we might want to, we have this another question where they're asking us to keep X and V, 2 variables, as far apart from each other as possible. So again, our instinct might be try to put X in 1 and V in 8, right? We might try to do this. But what's the problem with this? The problem is we have a rule, this one, that says that the spaces between, rule number 3, that the spaces between X and V, the number of spaces in between X and V has to be the same number as the spaces between H and O. But if we put X and V as far apart as possible and put 6 in between them, there would be no room for us to get 6 in between H and O. So that can't be the answer because it would violate rule number 3. So what if we just take the V and we move it over here though? Okay, now there's going to be 5 in between the X and the V, and visually we can see that we can achieve the same result for H and O by doing this. And if we count them, obviously that'll be the same. There'll be 5 in between the H and the O and 5 in between the X and the V. So that would work out. And then you just, probably want to double check that there's not going to be any other problems. But there really aren't that many other rules actually. We've taken care of the first 3 rules just by putting X, H, V, and O on the board. Now we need to make sure that Z and M are next to each other. And then the first is not red. Yeah, we've already taken care of that as well. So the only really thing we have left to think about is that Z and M have to be next to each other, and we can just put the Z and M anywhere in here. So how far apart can we get the X and the V? How many files can separate them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer here would be C. Okay, and let's do the last question, number 5. So in this question, they put Z 5th, okay, and right away we know that M is going to go 6th. So now let's see what they ask us. Which one of the following is a complete and accurate list of the positions, any of which could be H's position? Okay, so where could H go? Well, we already knew that H cannot go in 7, and H cannot go in 8, and H cannot go in 1. Okay, and now obviously because Z and M are going in 5 and 6, then H can't go in 5 and 6. So it looks like at first glance that H could go in 2, 3, or 4. And so you just want to double check really quickly that, if you had to rush, that would be your answer. But if you had time, you would just quickly double check and make sure that you still, wherever you put the H, whether it's 2, 3, or 4, you're still able to um, follow this rule, which says that X and V have to be separated by the same number of spaces as H and O. So, for example, if you put H here, all right, and you put the O here, that actually would be a problem because you would have two spaces separating H and O, so you would need two spaces separating X and V, but as you can see visually, there's no way you would be able to do that. All right, there is no, space, blank, blank, space where you could put the X and the V down. So if you put the H in 4, you have to make sure you put the H in the O in 8 so that there are now three spaces in between them, and then you could achieve that same result for X and V by doing this. Okay? So, uh, so you are able to put H in 4, you just would have to put the O in 8 rather than in 7. So the 4 should be on the list of places where H can go. And then really quickly, you would just check, so can I put the H in 3 as well? And, what happens if I put the O again in 8? So how many spaces would there be in between them? 4. Okay. There's 4 spaces in between, so we can just go XV like this. And that would be four spaces in between the X and the V, so that would be fine. And the same thing happens when you try to put H in 2. If you put H in 2 and O in 8, then you have you have 5 spaces in between the H and the O, so you need 5 spaces in between the X and the V, and that works out because you can put the X here and the V here. Okay? So the answer for this question is that you can put the H, if you put the Z in 5, you're able to put the H in either second, third, or fourth, which is answer choice C. All right, that's it for this game. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.